Black America just does not watch mixed martial arts. Now, I know it's crazy coming from an African American such as myself that is an absolute 100% bona fide hardcore MMA fan. If you take a look at any sport and then you look at the greatest athletes to compete in those said sports, those are the highest paid athletes around for their time. And why? Because they generate the most buzz, the most fanfare. They generate revenue. They put butts in seats. But combat sports, yeah, that's a different story. Combat sports occur on a grandiose scale, usually when there's racial tension, or at least some type of drama going on between both camps. Because at the end of the day, it's prize fighting. You're fighting for your family. You're fighting for your paycheck. And if you lose that fight, it could greatly affect your paycheck and any subsequent bout you might have after. A lot of fans put the UFC, which is the worldwide leader in mixed martial arts, on par with leagues like the NBA, the NFL. But in actual reality, even though these guys are subjected to employee-like contracts, they are independent contractors. They don't get the protections and assurances that your everyday employee gets. So circling back to the fact that Black America just doesn't watch MMA, and you couple that with the fact that the highest paid athletes are the ones that generate the most buzz, it's not hard to tell why the African Americans have never been the biggest stars in MMA. When you think about MMA, the hardcore fans will tell you that there are 5 GOATs. Now, they might say there's one GOAT. Oh, there's 2 GOATs. They're in the discussion, but there are 5 constant names in the GOAT discussion of mixed martial arts. Fedor Emelianenko, who's highly regarded as the greatest heavyweight of all time. And again, some hold him as the greatest of all time. George Rush St. Pierre. Some hold him as the greatest mixed martial artist of all time. And the other 3 guys that are in this discussion, that's right, they are all black. Anderson Silva. And before you jump out there and say, oh, Anderson Silva is not black, he's Brazilian. Anderson Silva is a black man in Brazil. Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson, the most title defenses of all time. He did so well that when the UFC had an opportunity to part ways with him, they did, for a decrepit fighter whom retired twice already, Ben Askren. Johnny Bones Jones, whom I know hasn't done much to help himself with his personal woes, but you can't deny that this is the greatest, if not one of the greatest fighters that the sport has ever seen. So 3 of the consensus GOATs are black, 2 of them African American. Why aren't they big stars? Dana White himself used to come out there and say, Anderson Silva hasn't always been the biggest star. Yeah, until he fought Chael Sonnen, he had a good B-side. They did numbers. It's not like Anderson Silva was box office after that, because he wasn't. John Jones, again, his ascent to the top of the mountain was historic, taking out legend after legend, leaving bodies and blood in his wake. Tremendous fighter, not box office. Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson. Nobody could beat this guy at 125 pounds. He rattled off so many title defenses, he broke Anderson Silva's record. 3 of the greatest fighters of all time, with 3 of the longest unbeaten streaks of all time. So many finishes, so many submissions, knockouts, victories, but not box office. If these guys hailed from any other country or region, they would be fully embraced and they would be megastars. The UFC was able to get 3 champions of African descent and Israel Adesanya, Kamaru Usman, and heavyweight champion Francis Ngannou, and none of them were box office hits. Black America does not watch mixed martial arts. And in combat sports, fans get nationalistic. Fans of different countries get behind their countrymen and they support them. They travel in droves to support them, which elevates the numbers. Look at George St. Pierre in Canada. Look at Conor McGregor in Ireland. Look at Michael Bisping in the UK. Look at Paddy Pimblett in the UK. Darren Till. We got Arnold Allen coming up. The UFC is set to do a stadium show for Leon Edwards versus Kamaru Usman because Leon is from the UK. If Leon was from the US, this wouldn't even be a discussion. If more black people watched mixed martial arts in the States, these guys would be megastars. Look at boxing. The biggest stars in boxing are black or brown. Yeah, there's always exceptions to the rule, as Tyson Fury reigns as the heavyweight champion along with Alexander Usyk. Aside from those guys, who are the biggest stars in boxing? Even in the heavyweight division, you had Wilder and Joshua. But we're talking about the States. Those guys, other than Wilder, are in the UK. Errol Spence, Bud Crawford, Gervonta Tank Davis. And look, Ryan Garcia is a star in boxing because of his YouTube following, his social media platforms, if you will. The Devin Haney's, the Shakur Stevensons, those guys are stars because of their boxing acumen and because the black community can identify with them, and more importantly, the black community watches boxing. If Floyd Money Mayweather fought MMA, I don't care if he went 50-0, 60-0, he would have never made the money that he accumulated as a boxer. The biggest fights that brought the black community to the sport of MMA, and I'm not talking about the casual crowd. I'm talking about John Jones versus Daniel Cormier. Black America cared about that fight. Or Rampage Jackson versus Sugar Rashad Evans. Yeah, the black community showed up for that fight as well. But those were one-offs. In America, people like who they like. They don't care where they're from. If more people watched MMA, Francis Ngannou might still be signed to the UFC. Think about it. If black America tuned in to watch Francis Ngannou like they tune in to watch Gervonta Tank Davis, who masquerades around with a fake belt when Devin Haney's got all the gold, you don't think he'd be a star? You don't think the UFC would hold him high as a commodity if he was breaking records at venues? If he was selling pay-per-views? If he was doing game busters on pay-per-view? They would move heaven and earth to keep him. It's easy to let a guy go and not re-sign him for what he's asking for when it doesn't make sense financially. If black America was behind these fighters like they are behind the fighters in boxing, it would be a game changer. In boxing, these guys aren't just the highest paid fighters because they're black or brown. It's because they're freaking good. Combat sports. The greatest combat sports athletes are black or brown. Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, Joe Louis, George Foreman, Floyd Money Mayweather, Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield. The list goes on and on. And as I mentioned, 3 of the 5 consensus GOATs in the sport of MMA, black. But they don't get the fanfare. They don't get paid as much as the stars of MMA. Khabib, Russia's behind him. Star. Conor, Ireland's behind him. Star. Yair Rodriguez just got an interim title. He's going to have Mexico behind him. You don't think he's going to get paid game busters? Yeah, he will. Wei Li Zhang. You know how many people are in China? Yeah, star. America, we don't get behind our own. And even worse, the plight of the black mixed martial artist is that he's not going to fully realize his upper bound limits because of the lack of viewership and support from the African American community. The UFC is not just picking guys saying, hey, I'm going to make you a star and I'm going to pay you a bunch of money. No, it's the guys that can break through to the casual audience. The guys that can make everybody care about their fights. Those are the ones that are getting paid. Should we knock these guys for having a country behind them ready to back them when they go to war every time? No, they have that built in. But not in America. Not in America. Think about it. Who is the biggest that you can think of? The biggest American mixed martial artist? Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey. And why? Because she was the first woman to be champion in the UFC. A big women's movement was going on. Ronda Rousey was able to break through to the casual fans because not only was she good in there and getting these girls out of there quickly, violently, but she was someone that symbolized power in woman. Hell, she got a backing from Beyonce Knowles. The African American fighter is never going to be perceived as big and as important as he actually is. Guys, let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe, of course. Come on, guys. The greatest mixed martial artist of all time, you trade for twice retired Ben Askren? The greatest mixed martial artist of all time was never really a star in Anderson Silva? The greatest mixed martial artist of all time, you didn't want to pay him to fight your heavyweight champion in Francis Ngannou? Why are they not stars? If they were really stars, these three things would not have happened. Thanks for watching. Until next time, stay frosty.